Hey guys, tonight we dive into a story older than time itself, one rooted in the ancient swamps of Lerna, Greece. Here, hidden in the murky waters, lived a creature so terrifying that its name still echoes across centuries, the Hydra. With its many heads and regenerative abilities, the Hydra was not just a beast, it was a nightmare made flesh, a symbol of unstoppable evil. Imagine standing at the edge of those swampy waters, the air thick with the pungent odor of decay. The sun barely penetrates the thick, damp fog. And there, emerging from the depths, is the creature with not one, but many serpent-like heads, each one writhing and hissing eyes burning with an ancient hunger. Now, you probably won't survive this encounter, but that's the price of curiosity, isn't it? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always interesting to see how far the stories travel. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Hydra, at first glance, may seem like just another mythical beast, its heads each one ready to strike. But there's far more lurking in this tale than meets the eye. What we know of the Hydra's origins comes mostly from Greek myth, particularly from the legend of Hercules and his 12 labors. But let's start at the beginning. The Hydra is said to be the offspring of Typhon and Echidna, two fearsome creatures in their own right. Typhon, often referred to as the father of all monsters, was said to be a giant so massive that his head touched the stars and his eyes glowed like burning coals. Echidna, his partner, was a half-woman, half-snake monster, a fitting mother for a creature like the Hydra. Together, they gave birth to this multi-headed terror. In some versions of the myth, the Hydra had 9 heads, but in others, it's said to have had more, sometimes even 50 or 100. Historians still argue whether the Hydra's heads were meant to symbolize the overwhelming forces of nature, or were just a storyteller's exaggeration. Some suggest the multiple heads represented the dangers that lay in waiting for anyone who dared venture into the Hydra's domain. What makes the Hydra especially terrifying is its regenerative ability. When one of its heads was cut off, 2 would grow in its place. A truly formidable enemy that only grew stronger the more it was wounded. A perfect metaphor for the challenges we face in life. Each obstacle once overcome gives way to 2 more. But despite all this, it wasn't the creature itself that made the Hydra so infamous. No, it was the hero who dared to face it. Hercules, one of the greatest heroes of Greek myth, was given the daunting task of slaying the Hydra as one of his 12 labors. And let's be real, Hercules was no stranger to tough tasks, but this was something else entirely. His first encounter with the Hydra wasn't just a battle of strength, it was a test of strategy. Hercules, armed with a golden sickle, was ready to strike. But as soon as he severed the first head, the creature's body began to twist and shift, and from the stump of the decapitated head, 2 more sprouted. Historians still argue about the methods Hercules employed during this battle. Some suggest he had help from the gods, while others claim that the hero's success came from his sheer willpower and intellect. But there's one thing for sure, Hercules was up against something far beyond any ordinary foe. As the battle raged on, Hercules found himself locked in a seemingly endless struggle. A battle where every victory seemed to lead to an even greater threat. The Hydra's ability to regenerate its heads turned what would have been a simple fight into a dangerous game of strategy and endurance. You can almost feel the weight of the moment. Hercules, his muscles aching, his sword slick with the dark venom of the Hydra's blood, facing an opponent that just wouldn't stay down. And it wasn't just the heads that made the Hydra a nightmare. It was also the creature's venomous breath. The stench from the Hydra's lair was so overwhelming that it could drive men to madness. In fact, the Hydra's very presence was enough to cause panic and confusion. Imagine trying to focus on slaying a creature, your vision blurred by the stench, your senses assaulted by its poisonous aura. It's said that even the gods were hesitant to approach the swamp where the Hydra lived so strong, was the creature's malevolent influence. But the real danger wasn't in the creature's stench alone. With every head that Hercules cut off, the Hydra's regenerative ability made it stronger, and the swamp itself seemed to rise up against him. Historians still debate whether the Hydra's venom was truly the deadly factor, or if it was the mental toll that the fight took on Hercules. Was it simply the Hydra's physical power, or was the constant regeneration a metaphor for the relentless pressures Hercules faced throughout his journey? Some even argue that the Hydra's many heads represent the way multiple problems in life can overwhelm a person, no matter how much strength they muster. In the face of all this, Hercules needed help, and he wasn't too proud to ask for it. Enter Iolaus, his trusty nephew. As the battle continued, Iolaus began to assist Hercules in a way that would prove critical to their success. His role in the myth is often overlooked, but without Iolaus, Hercules might have never defeated the Hydra. Iolaus had the idea to cauterize the stumps of the decapitated heads, effectively preventing them from growing back. He took a torch and held it to the stump of each head as Hercules severed it. This tactic halted the creature's regenerative power, giving Hercules a fighting chance. There's an interesting debate among historians about how much credit should go to Iolaus in this moment. Was he simply a supporting character, or was his role the true key to Hercules' success? Some argue that the fight against the Hydra wasn't just a test of physical strength, but a lesson in the power of teamwork and strategy. While Hercules struggled against the Hydra's relentless attack, Iolaus's quick thinking saved the day. With the creature's heads unable to regenerate, Hercules finally managed to slay the Hydra by cutting off its final immortal head, the one at the center of its many necks. This head was said to be the most dangerous, and after it was severed, the Hydra's reign of terror came to an end. But even as the Hydra died, it left behind a legacy. Historians still argue whether the Hydra's many heads were meant to symbolize specific challenges, or whether they represented an abstract concept, like the endlessness of struggle. In some versions of the myth, the final immortal head of the Hydra is said to have had the power to poison the earth. This could symbolize the lingering, unseen consequences of challenges long after they appear to be vanquished. In the aftermath, Hercules took the Hydra's blood, using it to dip his arrows. These poisoned arrows would go on to become one of his greatest weapons, further cementing the Hydra's place in his legacy. But what does this say about the hero? Was the Hydra truly defeated? Or did it merely evolve into another tool for Hercules to use in his ongoing trials? At this point in the story, you might wonder, was the Hydra's defeat truly a victory? Or was it merely another step in an endless cycle of challenges? The more you think about it, the more the story of the Hydra becomes a reflection of the trials and tribulations we all face in life. Hercules' victory wasn't just about slaying the Hydra, it was about learning to deal with obstacles that never truly go away, but must be faced again and again. By now, the battle between Hercules and the Hydra has passed into legend, but its deeper implications linger like the poison that once coursed through the hero's veins. For Hercules, the Hydra wasn't just another monstrous foe. The struggle with the creature spoke volumes about the nature of trials and triumphs. At the heart of this legendary battle, it's clear, while Hercules' strength was crucial, his triumph depended just as much on his cleverness and the willingness to adapt. The Hydra didn't fall to brute force alone. It was a battle of wits, a struggle against an enemy that could regenerate, evolve, and persist in ways that Hercules had not anticipated. But the Hydra's legacy didn't end with the severing of its heads. Far from it. In fact, one of the most haunting parts of the myth is the aftermath, the Hydra's venomous blood. You've probably heard that old saying about how sometimes even the worst experiences leave behind the most dangerous gifts, right? Well, for Hercules, the Hydra's blood proved to be both a blessing and a curse. As mentioned before, the hero dipped his arrows in the poison, creating weapons capable of bringing down even the toughest foes. The problem, however, is that these poisoned arrows were also a constant reminder of what he had to sacrifice. Every victory came with its own price, and the Hydra's poison was a painful reminder of that cost. Historians continue to debate whether this poisoned weapon wielded by Hercules in his subsequent adventures represents a necessary evil or a hidden symbol of regret. Some scholars argue that it's a symbol of how the hero's victories became increasingly marked by violence and irreversible harm, while others contend that it's simply a tool to ensure his survival. Either way, Hercules' actions have a clear subtext. Overcoming one obstacle often creates the means to overcome the next, but that doesn't mean the battle ever truly ends. Speaking of the Hydra's legacy, let's talk about how it became a symbolic figure in later mythologies and art. The monster was more than just a villainous creature in Greek legend. It became an enduring metaphor, a symbol for chaos, destruction, and regeneration. After all, what's more terrifying than a problem that never dies? The idea that no matter how many heads you cut off, new ones will spring up in their place is something that resonates far beyond the world of ancient Greece. It's the kind of fear that we all know too well, the never-ending struggle. In the ancient world, artists and poets were drawn to the image of the Hydra's many heads. The creature's appearance would appear on pottery, in sculptures, and in dramatic performances. One of the most famous representations of the Hydra comes from the Greek artist Attic, whose depictions of Hercules' battle with the creature have been reproduced countless times. These artworks show Hercules with his sword raised high, poised for the kill. But they also depict the Hydra in all its chaotic glory, the monster, with its heads in constant motion, each one defying Hercules' attempts to subdue it. But the Hydra was not confined to ancient Greek art alone. In fact, the creature's impact can still be felt in modern culture, particularly in the realms of fantasy and horror. From the pages of comic books to the frames of blockbuster films, the Hydra has been reimagined in countless ways. It's no wonder that the monster continues to haunt our collective imagination. It represents the fear of challenges that only grow more daunting the more we fight against them. Even today, there's something deeply unsettling about the idea of an enemy that regenerates endlessly. Think about it. How many times have we encountered something in our own lives that seems to multiply the more we try to fix it? Whether it's work stress, personal dilemmas, or even global crises, the Hydra remains a timeless symbol of the struggle we all face against forces that feel insurmountable. The regeneration of the Hydra's heads feels almost like a metaphor for how new challenges always seem to sprout from the old. That's why the Hydra as a symbol endures. While the monster itself may have been slain in the myth, its representation lives on. Scholars and writers have long debated the Hydra's symbolism, with some suggesting that it embodies the endless challenges we face in life. Others argue that the Hydra represents the chaos of existence itself, a force that cannot be easily tamed or defeated. As you let that thought sink in, consider how the Hydra's story might shape the way we think about our own battles. Every time we face a challenge, do we not feel like we're chopping off heads only for new ones to appear? The more we attempt to fix things, the more they seem to multiply. But just like Hercules, perhaps our victory lies not in the act of slaying the beast, but in learning how to deal with the problem in a way that we never thought possible. And so the Hydra's story remains an ever-evolving metaphor for the struggle we face, both in the ancient world and in the modern one. The Hydra's regenerative power is what truly sets it apart from any other mythical beast, making it a creature of both fear and fascination. But what makes this myth even more intriguing is how it reflects the nature of seemingly insurmountable challenges in our own lives. We've all faced problems that felt as though, no matter how many times we tackled them, and they kept coming back often with more intensity than before. The Hydra was a physical embodiment of that ceaseless cycle. And it's no surprise that it became a symbol not just of battle, but of perseverance. But what if I told you that the Hydra wasn't just a symbol of challenges that never die, but also a lesson in how we deal with them? Let's zoom out a little and think about the deeper layers of the myth. When Hercules cuts off one of the Hydra's heads, two more spring forth in its place. In this endless cycle of regeneration, there's an important lesson sometimes. When we face problems head-on, we make the mistake of thinking we've won too soon. We think that once we tackle one obstacle, everything will magically fall into place. But that's rarely the case, right? Problems don't simply disappear, they evolve. Perhaps this is why the Hydra is so often associated with the complexities of life itself. The myth shows us that victory isn't always as straightforward as it seems. In fact, the Hydra is often viewed as a symbol of life's complexity, the ever-expanding web of problems that we must face, each one feeding into the next. In one way or another, each new head is a consequence of trying to solve a previous issue. For instance, consider the modern world's struggles, environmental crises, political turmoil, or even personal dilemmas. How many times have we solved one problem only to realize that a bigger one takes its place? It's almost as if life itself is a Hydra cut off one head and another emerges in its place. Hercules, of course, faced this problem head-on. But as we know, brute strength wasn't enough to win the battle. In fact, Hercules had to adapt his approach. It wasn't simply about cutting off heads anymore. He had to figure out a way to stop the Hydra from regenerating a task that required quick thinking and ingenuity. And this is where the help of Iolaus became crucial. Iolaus, Hercules' clever nephew, had a solution that went beyond strength, cauterizing the necks. Using fire to burn the stump after each decapitation, Iolaus made sure the Hydra's heads could no longer regenerate. This in itself is a key moment in the myth. It represents the idea that challenges can't always be solved by strength or sheer determination alone. Sometimes we need to think outside the box and find innovative solutions. Whether it's tackling a problem at work, resolving a personal conflict, or navigating a global crisis. The lesson is clear. It's not enough to just cut down the obstacles in front of us. We need to understand the root cause and prevent it from coming back. The myth also serves as a reminder that no one, no matter how strong, can face overwhelming challenges alone. Hercules' success wasn't solely due to his own power. It was because he was willing to accept help when he needed it. In this way, Iolaus becomes a vital character in the Hydra's story, not just as Hercules' sidekick, but as the person who provided the missing piece to the puzzle. The idea that two heads or minds are better than one is something that resonates in every aspect of life. In fact, there's an argument to be made that the Hydra myth teaches us about the importance of collaboration, especially in times of crisis. This aspect of teamwork is significant in understanding the cultural implications of the Hydra's story. Ancient Greek society, while known for its focus on individual heroes, also placed a strong emphasis on community and teamwork. The myth, in a sense, reflects this duality. Hercules, the lone hero, needed help from another individual to achieve success. This mirrors the Greek belief that even the greatest of heroes, like those in the Homeric epics, couldn't always achieve their goals in isolation. Collaboration wasn't just an afterthought, it was often a crucial element of a hero's journey. And in case you were wondering, this teamwork aspect isn't just a convenient narrative twist. It's one of the core reasons why this myth endures. It resonates with anyone who has faced a challenge that required both personal effort and support from others. We can all relate to the notion of working together to overcome what feels like an unstoppable force. In the case of the Hydra, it wasn't Hercules' strength alone that triumphed. It was the combination of his might and Iolaus' quick thinking. As we move forward in the story, it's important to note that the Hydra's death wasn't the end of its influence. The monster's defeat might have been the culmination of one particular chapter in Hercules' life, but it set the stage for a new kind of legacy, one that involved not just the hero's victories, but also the consequences of those victories. The poisoned arrows Hercules used afterward were a direct result of the battle with the Hydra. While these arrows became one of his most powerful weapons, they also carried with them a constant reminder of the cost of heroism. But let's not jump ahead just yet. While Hercules and Iolaus may have defeated the Hydra, its story wasn't finished. It would continue to echo through history in art, literature, and culture. Now imagine for a moment that you're standing in the heart of ancient Greece, surrounded by great philosophers, poets, and artists, all discussing the Hydra, this fearsome creature that would come to symbolize so many of life's struggles. The myth by now is more than just a story. It has transcended time, carrying with it ideas about life, fate, and perseverance that continue to captivate minds today. For the ancient Greeks, the Hydra wasn't just a simple monster to be vanquished. It was a living, breathing representation of the chaos and unpredictability of the world. In fact, many of the ancient philosophers like Plato and Heraclitus would often use the Hydra as a metaphor for the complexities of life. To them, the Hydra symbolized a world that was constantly in flux, where every resolution led to new challenges. Historians still argue whether the Hydra was truly meant to represent nature's unpredictability, or whether it was merely a cautionary tale about the dangers of overconfidence. Either way, the message was clear: no matter how strong or clever you were, there would always be another challenge, another head to cut off. This connection between the Hydra and life's unrelenting nature is what made it such a powerful symbol for generations. The myth of Hercules' fight against the Hydra became a reflection of the human condition itself, our endless quest for meaning, our battle with forces that seem larger than life, and our ability to adapt, grow, and find new ways to face our challenges. Much like the regenerative heads of the Hydra, our problems can seem to multiply the more we try to solve them, making the task of overcoming them feel like an endless cycle. However, one of the most fascinating aspects of the Hydra myth is how it was interpreted by ancient artists. They were drawn to its power and terror, but also to the symbolism of its many heads. The creature's appearance changed over time, but its core characteristics remained the same. The Hydra was often depicted with a terrifying array of heads, each one capable of attacking each one, bringing a new layer of danger to the hero's challenge. Some ancient vases and sculptures even showed Hercules struggling to sever the creature's many heads, each head representing a different obstacle he faced. But perhaps one of the most intriguing representations of the Hydra can be found in the artwork of ancient Greek pottery. These vases often depicted the creature in full battle mode, with Hercules caught in the act of chopping off one of the monster's heads, while two more sprouted in its place. The artists didn't just capture the violence of the scene. They also captured the exhaustion, the frustration of a hero who could never truly defeat the enemy. The Hydra's regenerative nature mirrored the frustration of an impossible fight, where no matter how much you fought, victory was never certain. As time passed, the image of the Hydra continued to evolve, but its essence remained intact. In Roman art, the Hydra was often portrayed as a multi-headed dragon, a creature whose menace and otherworldly power could not be easily vanquished. In these depictions, the Hydra was shown as a more mythical beast, its many heads twisting in all directions. But the central idea was always the same. The creature represented chaos, destruction, and an endless struggle. The Hydra's legacy didn't just survive in ancient times, it lived on through centuries of art and culture, constantly adapting to the times. In the medieval period, for example, the Hydra became a symbol of the battles against the unknown, facing monsters and demons that had yet to be conquered by human understanding. The Hydra was sometimes depicted as a creature of nightmares, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there would always be more obstacles to face. But the Hydra's role as a symbol of danger and chaos wasn't the only aspect of its enduring legacy. In modern times, the Hydra has found a new life in literature, comics, and film, where it's frequently used to represent the very essence of an enemy that never gives up. From the pages of comic books to Hollywood blockbusters, the creature has appeared in a variety of guises, sometimes as a villainous force, other times as a symbol of the inner struggles that we all face. In many modern interpretations, the Hydra represents the idea that no matter how many obstacles we overcome, there will always be more challenges to confront. In literature, the Hydra is often used to represent the very nature of conflict itself. Writers draw on its regenerative abilities as a metaphor for how our battles, whether external or internal, can multiply the more we struggle against them. The Hydra's persistence is a fitting symbol for the constant churn of challenges we face throughout our lives. Every new head that sprouts is a reflection of the way problems tend to grow the more we fight against them. It's as if every victory is met with a new and even more daunting foe, a reminder that the journey is never truly over. In modern-day media, the Hydra is often used as a symbol of the unstoppable forces that exist in our world. Whether it's a villainous corporation, a corrupt system, or even our own internal struggles, the Hydra's ability to regenerate and evolve makes it a fitting metaphor for the ways in which the challenges we face continue to grow and multiply. The more we try to defeat them, the more they change and become more complex. The Hydra's presence in our lives is a constant, its influence undeniable. Whether we encounter it in ancient mythology, modern pop culture, or our personal struggles, the Hydra remains a powerful symbol of the things we cannot control. It's a reminder that some challenges never truly disappear, but must be faced again and again. And perhaps, just like Hercules, the key to overcoming them lies not in brute force or simple victory, but in our ability to adapt, grow, and find new solutions when we think we've hit the end of the road. The Hydra's story transcends the boundaries of mythology, art, and culture, lingering in the subconscious of humanity as both a challenge and a lesson. But let's take a step back and ask a fundamental question. Why does the Hydra, a multi-headed serpent, continue to captivate us after thousands of years? Is it simply because it's a terrifying creature? Or is there something deeper, something symbolic about the Hydra's many heads that strikes a chord with our own human experiences? The answer lies in the very nature of the Hydra itself. While it is undeniably a powerful and frightening creature, its true significance comes from the symbolic role it plays in representing the complexities of life. At its core, the Hydra represents the idea that challenges are not just obstacles to overcome, they are part of the fabric of existence. Just like the Hydra's heads, life's difficulties multiply and regenerate in ways we can't always predict. In a sense, the Hydra is more than just a mythical creature. It is a reflection of the forces we grapple with in our daily lives. And there's another layer to the Hydra's symbolism. The Hydra is not just a representation of challenges. It also embodies the inevitability of these challenges. No matter how hard Hercules tried to cut down the heads of the Hydra, new ones grew in their place. This brings us to a deeper realization about life. No matter how hard we try, we can't always avoid difficulties, and they often reappear in different forms. The Hydra becomes a reminder that some battles are endless, but it's how we face them that defines us. This ties into the psychological dimension of the Hydra myth. The creature's regeneration is a perfect metaphor for how we often confront our own personal demons. Whether it's old fears, unresolved conflicts, or bad habits, these internal struggles can feel like the Hydra's heads endlessly sprouting and growing no matter how many times we try to deal with them. Some psychologists suggest that the Hydra is a powerful symbol of the cyclical nature of human psychology, the way we often circle back to unresolved issues, no matter how hard we try to move forward. The more we try to cut down the heads of these problems, the more they seem to multiply. But just like Hercules, we must find new strategies to confront these demons. It's also interesting to note that the Hydra's regenerative ability isn't just a physical trait, it's also a psychological one. When we face a setback, it's not just our circumstances that regenerate. It's our thoughts, our emotions, and our attitudes. Sometimes overcoming a challenge doesn't mean completely eradicating it. It means learning how to live with it, how to accept that the battle may never be fully won, but the struggle can still be worth the effort. The Hydra's heads don't just represent external forces. They also reflect our internal world, where the battle between hope and despair, success and failure, is a constant. But Hercules, with all his strength and heroism, was not alone in this battle. Iolaus, his nephew, played a crucial role in preventing the Hydra from regenerating. It's a reminder that even the strongest of heroes can't do it all alone. Sometimes the most important lesson is the value of support, whether from friends, family, or even strangers who come into our lives at the right moment. Hercules' strength was undeniable, but it was his willingness to accept help that ultimately led to the Hydra's defeat. In this way, the Hydra myth also teaches us about humility, about the necessity of reaching out when the battle becomes too overwhelming to face alone. Looking at the Hydra through this lens, it's clear that the myth has a timeless appeal because it mirrors the struggles that we all face in different forms. Whether we're dealing with personal hardships, societal challenges, or simply the daily grind, the Hydra's regenerative nature reflects how our struggles often feel never-ending. No matter how many heads we cut off, there always seems to be more. But the key takeaway from this myth is that even though the Hydra's regeneration represents the endlessness of our challenges, it also provides the opportunity for growth, adaptation, and resilience. Just as Hercules learned to adapt his approach, we too must learn to adapt in order to move forward. And that's where the true lesson of the Hydra lies. It's not about defeating every challenge once and for all, but rather about facing the challenges that life throws our way, learning from them and evolving in the process. The Hydra may have had many heads, but it was Hercules' ability to change his strategy to think outside the box that led to its eventual defeat. And in a world where the heads of our own problems continue to regenerate, it's a lesson we can all take to heart. The story of the Hydra, while rooted in ancient mythology, is still relevant today. It speaks to our very nature as humans, our ability to face adversity, and our ongoing struggle to overcome obstacles. It's a reminder that no matter how many heads our problems have, there's always a way to outwit them. But it requires more than strength. It requires strategy, ingenuity, and the willingness to seek help when we need it most. And perhaps in the end, that's the real triumph over the Hydra, not in slaying it, but in learning how to live with it, how to face it with resilience and courage. The Hydra, despite its fearsome nature, isn't the only mythological creature that has left a mark on both ancient and modern imaginations. Throughout history, monsters have been used as symbols of the fears and struggles we face in our own lives. But what makes the Hydra so different from other mythical beasts, like the Minotaur or Cerberus, is the endless, almost relentless nature of its existence. It's not a creature that can be contained or defeated once and for all. The Hydra is ever regenerating, always growing stronger the more you challenge it. And in this way, it mirrors the human experience more closely than we might like to admit. In modern life, the Hydra has taken on new roles as a symbol of various struggles: environmental collapse, systemic inequality, and personal battles with addiction or mental health. These are the types of problems that seem to have multiple layers, often regenerating or evolving into something different each time you think you've overcome them. Whether it's a global issue like climate change or a deeply personal one, like the emotional scars from trauma, the Hydra's endless heads symbolize how certain challenges are cyclical, reappearing no matter how much effort we put into solving them. There's something particularly unsettling about this cycle of regeneration. It suggests that we as individuals and as a society will never truly conquer all of the challenges we face. Each time we think we've found the solution, the problem mutates and we're forced to begin the struggle all over again. The Hydra's very nature, its constant ability to evolve and grow, reminds us that certain problems in life do not have a final resolution. They are ongoing, inescapable forces that require constant vigilance. This is what makes the Hydra so terrifying. It doesn't just challenge you once. It's a persistent enemy that wears you down over time, often in ways you don't expect. Now, it's important to recognize that the Hydra isn't always the terrifying monster it appears to be. While it embodies struggle and hardship, the creature also carries an underlying message of resilience. Hercules' victory over the Hydra didn't come by simply cutting off its heads. It came from his willingness to adapt, to work with others, and to think beyond the obvious. This is a crucial point because it emphasizes that overcoming life's Hydra-like challenges is not about brute force or willpower alone. It's about being resourceful and finding new ways to face problems that seem insurmountable. This approach, rethinking how we handle ongoing challenges, has profound implications in today's world. For example, the environmental crisis that we face is not something that can be solved by one single act of deforestation or a single climate summit. Like the Hydra, the problems regenerate, taking new forms and presenting new challenges. But much like Iolaus cauterizing the Hydra's necks, we must find ways to stop these problems from regrowing in new and more dangerous ways. This requires more than just band-aid solutions. It requires systemic change, collaboration, and the will to adopt new strategies to prevent the issues from multiplying. Perhaps one of the most profound ways we can relate to the Hydra is through the psychological lens. When we consider mental health, addiction, or trauma, we can see how these issues are often cyclical in nature. There may be periods of relief, times when the Hydra's heads seem to be cut down. But just as soon as you think the battle is over, they regrow stronger and more threatening than before. The Hydra, in this sense, becomes a metaphor for our ongoing fight with our own inner demons, those parts of ourselves that we struggle with over and over again. But just like Hercules, we too have the ability to adapt. We may not always win every battle, but every time we face these struggles, we learn more about how to cope and how to live with them. The process of learning to manage, heal, and grow stronger is key to overcoming the Hydra's influence on our lives. It teaches us that we cannot conquer everything. Sometimes we just need to learn how to face it, deal with it, and continue moving forward. As we reflect on this myth, it's essential to recognize the paradox at play. On one hand, the Hydra represents a challenge that will never truly go away, a struggle that persists no matter how hard we fight. On the other hand, it reminds us of our own resilience, the fact that we can continue to move forward, even when the heads of our challenges keep regenerating. This is the true essence of the Hydra myth. It teaches us that the battle may never end, but we are stronger and more capable than we realize. The myth of the Hydra, while rooted in ancient times, offers timeless wisdom. It reminds us that while we may never be able to completely defeat the monsters we face, whether they are external challenges or internal struggles, we can still find ways to cope, adapt, and thrive. And perhaps in this ongoing battle, that is the real victory. As we continue to explore the Hydra's impact on myth, culture, and life, it's important to step back and recognize something essential. The Hydra, as a creature, is not just a monster to be defeated. It is a reflection of an ongoing battle, one that many of us experience in our day-to-day lives. The Hydra's ability to regenerate its heads is the central feature that keeps it alive in our imaginations, representing an idea that has long persisted in the hearts of storytellers, philosophers, and psychologists alike. The inevitability of recurring challenges. In the modern world, we often find ourselves battling a metaphorical Hydra. Consider the personal struggles we face in mental health, relationships, or careers. Just when we feel like we've overcome one issue, whether it's anxiety, financial problems, or a challenging life event, something new pops up. The difficulty is that these problems don't always appear in the same form. Much like the Hydra's heads, they evolve, adapt, and present themselves in new ways. Perhaps one challenge fades into the background, only to be replaced by a different one, more complex and harder to confront. It's as if the Hydra lives on in our own lives, reminding us that problems rarely disappear. They just take on different shapes, waiting to rear their heads at the most unexpected times. Think about the current global challenges we face. From the climate crisis to political unrest and global inequality, These are the modern-day equivalents of the Hydra's many heads. Each time one problem is addressed, two more often emerge. The question becomes, how do we cope with this unrelenting cycle of issues that never seem to end? Hercules taught us that even though we may not be able to defeat every obstacle once and for all, we can still find ways to manage them, to adjust our strategies, and to keep moving forward. In this light, the Hydra becomes not just a symbol of impossible challenges, but also one of hope and persistence. The idea that the more heads you cut off, the more grow in their place might seem disheartening. But it also carries an underlying message: as long as we keep trying, as long as we keep confronting these problems, we are still fighting. Even if the battle is never over, it doesn't mean we should give up. This idea of persistent struggle against an ever-regenerating foe is something we all grapple with in different forms. For some, the Hydra might represent the never-ending pursuit of success or the constant pressure to improve. For others, it might embody a deeper, more personal struggle with past trauma or addiction. But no matter the specific form, the Hydra reminds us that our challenges will always be there, and they will take on new faces as we grow and evolve. But like Hercules, we don't have to fight alone. We can call on others, family, friends, or even the wisdom of others who have faced similar battles. One particularly poignant aspect of the myth is that Hercules, despite his strength and valor, did not defeat the Hydra single-handedly. He needed Iolaus to cauterize the stumps of the severed heads, to prevent them from regenerating. This partnership, this act of cooperation, is essential. It suggests that even in the greatest of struggles, we do not have to face them alone. Collaboration, whether it's working with others or simply accepting help when we need it, is just as important as individual strength. It's a theme that resonates deeply in modern times, especially as we face societal and personal battles that are simply too large to tackle alone. But let's also consider the emotional impact of such an enduring challenge. Imagine being Hercules faced with a creature that regenerates endlessly. How demoralizing it must have felt. Yet he persisted. And so we must persist in our own lives. We may not see the end of our struggles immediately, but that doesn't mean we should give up. Each time we confront and address a problem, whether it's personal growth, a relationship, or a global issue, we are slowly but surely weakening the Hydra, cutting off its heads one by one. The emotional toll of such constant struggle cannot be underestimated, but here's the key: perseverance, collaboration, and adaptability are the tools that help us push forward just like Hercules. It's easy to think that Hercules' victory over the Hydra was just about slaying the beast, but it was more about overcoming an insurmountable challenge through careful thinking, teamwork, and persistence. In many ways, the Hydra's defeat was not just about killing the creature, but about learning how to manage the overwhelming, unpredictable nature of life's challenges. It's important to remember that while the Hydra represents an endless struggle, it also represents a journey. And journeys, as we all know, are often as important as the destination. Every obstacle we overcome, no matter how small it may seem, is part of the process. We learn, adapt, and grow stronger each time we confront a challenge, much like Hercules did in his battle with the Hydra. And so the Hydra continues to live on in our hearts and minds, not as a defeated monster, but as a reminder that life is full of obstacles, many of which may never be fully conquered. The key to surviving and even thriving is in how we approach these obstacles. Do we let them define us, or do we find ways to adapt, to change our strategies, and to keep pushing forward? The Hydra's heads may never stop regenerating, but that doesn't mean we can't learn to deal with them. In the end, the true victory lies not in slaying the Hydra, but in our ability to face it, to adapt to its ever-changing forms, and to continue the fight with resilience, hope, and strength. And as long as we keep doing that, we are the true heroes of our own stories. As we explore the Hydra's endless regeneration, we cannot ignore the wider cultural impact this myth has had throughout history. In every era, from the ancient Greeks to the modern day, the Hydra has remained a potent symbol, a reminder of life's most profound and complex challenges. Whether depicted in art, literature, or philosophy, the Hydra continues to embody the fight against overwhelming forces that cannot be easily conquered. Its persistence in our cultural consciousness speaks to something deeper, something universal. The Hydra's symbolism doesn't just reflect personal or individual struggles. It also mirrors larger societal issues. Consider the Hydra's multi-headed form. Each head represents a different challenge, a different facet of the problem at hand. The creature itself could be seen as a symbol of the multiple, interconnected crises we face as a society: environmental degradation, economic inequality, social injustice, and more. Each time we attempt to address one of these issues, we often find that others spring up in its place, more complicated and harder to deal with. The Hydra, in this sense, can be viewed as a powerful metaphor for the interwoven nature of global challenges. Much like the Hydra's heads, that these problems regenerate, often appearing in new forms. The more we address one, the more we seem to create others, sometimes unintentionally. This is the dilemma of modern life. Take the fight against climate change, for example. Every time we take a step forward in reducing carbon emissions, we face new challenges: technological limitations, political opposition, and the massive scale of change required. We think we're cutting down one head, but before we know it, two new problems arise. The Hydra seems to have an endless supply of heads, just as our most pressing issues seem to evolve and multiply, making the fight feel like a never-ending battle. However, it's essential to understand that while the Hydra symbolizes problems that regenerate, it also presents an opportunity. The key to managing these challenges, much like Hercules did with the Hydra, lies in adapting our approach. Hercules didn't just cut off the Hydra's heads until it was dead. He figured out how to stop the regeneration process by using fire to cauterize the stumps. This creative, adaptive approach allowed him to face the Hydra's power on its own terms, rendering it powerless. In the modern context, this lesson is invaluable. We may not have a golden sickle or a magical sword, but we have our own tools at our disposal: creativity, collaboration, and adaptability. To fight the Hydra of modern life, we need to think beyond traditional methods. Whether it's combating climate change, overcoming political polarization, or addressing social inequality, we must find innovative solutions that prevent these challenges from regenerating in more dangerous forms. This might involve shifting societal norms, rethinking how we approach technology, or fostering a greater sense of community and shared responsibility. Just as Hercules needed Iolaus to help him stop the Hydra's heads from regenerating, we too must work together to prevent the issues we face from evolving into more insurmountable problems. But even as we strive for solutions, we must also be honest about the fact that some battles may never fully end. Some problems may never be entirely eradicated. This doesn't mean we should give up, though. On the contrary, it means we need to approach these challenges with resilience and perseverance, understanding that the Hydra will continue to rise. But we can learn to face it one head at a time. And here's where the story of the Hydra takes on a new dimension. In its defeat, Hercules didn't just conquer a beast. He also symbolized humanity's ability to adapt to the world's relentless challenges. The victory was not simply about cutting down the Hydra, it was about outsmarting it, finding a way to stop the heads from regenerating. This is the true essence of heroism: not to avoid the challenges, but to face them with intelligence, creativity, and strength of will. This perspective can help us navigate our own struggles. Whether it's overcoming personal difficulties, addressing societal issues, or confronting the inevitable challenges of life, we can learn from the Hydra myth that each problem we face is an opportunity to grow. The journey might not be easy, and the fight may not always lead to a final victory. But the process itself, learning, adapting, and continuing to fight, is what truly matters. As we reflect on Hercules' battle with the Hydra, we realize that the myth offers a message of hope in the face of adversity. The Hydra may have had many heads, but its eventual defeat shows us that even the most formidable challenges can be managed with the right approach. We may not be able to slay every Hydra we face, but by adapting our strategies, collaborating with others, and continuing to fight, we can find ways to manage the challenges that come our way. And perhaps that is the greatest victory of all, not in the eradication of the Hydra, but in the strength we gain from facing it. The Hydra's legacy, enduring through millennia, also holds lessons beyond personal perseverance and societal change. It's not merely the physical defeat of a monstrous creature we should focus on, but the ongoing resonance of the Hydra in our collective consciousness. The fear of the many-headed beast speaks to something deeper within us, the fear of being overwhelmed by forces beyond our control, and the inability to eliminate problems once and for all. It speaks to our deepest anxieties about the impermanence of solutions and the constant uncertainty of the world we inhabit. Yet despite the Hydra's terrifying regenerative abilities, there is an undeniable beauty in its symbolism. The creature is not only a reminder of the countless challenges life throws our way, but also a reflection of nature's ability to adapt and evolve. The Hydra, in a strange way, embodies the very essence of life's constant flux. Much like the Hydra, the world around us is in a constant state of regeneration, renewal, and transformation. Problems evolve, obstacles shift, and the unexpected always arises. But so do solutions, ideas, and opportunities. This cyclical nature of the Hydra's power mirrors the very cycles we experience in the natural world. From the changing of seasons to the continual adaptation of species in response to environmental pressures, nature itself operates in patterns of perpetual growth and renewal. Perhaps in a way, the Hydra represents not just the struggle against insurmountable odds, but also the beauty of growth, the ever-present opportunity to evolve and adjust. The fight with the Hydra is one of survival, yes, but it is also a fight for adaptation, for finding ways to cope with and overcome the forces that constantly push against us. As we consider this, it's clear that the Hydra myth speaks to the human experience on a global level. From the ancient past to the present, the creature has endured as a metaphor for the adversities we face collectively as a species. The battle against the Hydra is not just a personal struggle. It's also a societal one, encapsulating the global challenges that test humanity's ability to adapt and evolve. But let's take a step back for a moment. How does this myth fit into the larger fabric of human culture? How does it relate to our understanding of heroes of victory and of defeat? Throughout history, heroes have been defined not just by their strength, but by their ability to overcome adversity. Yet the true strength of Hercules wasn't in his ability to wield a weapon, but in his capacity for change and innovation. His partnership with Iolaus, his creative approach to the Hydra's regeneration, and his willingness to adapt his methods all speak to a core principle of heroism: the willingness to grow in the face of the unyielding. Heroes like the Hydra evolve. They must adapt to the times, to the struggles they face, and to the shifting world around them. The real heroism then lies not in slaying the beast, but in finding new ways to approach the battle. This lesson resonates with each of us, reminding us that overcoming obstacles is not always about force or power. It's about resilience, innovation, and cooperation. The Hydra forces us to recognize that true victory isn't about annihilation, but about learning how to manage life's endless struggles, how to innovate when confronted with the impossible, and how to keep moving forward even when the journey seems endless. This also brings us to a thought-provoking point. In many ways, the Hydra is a metaphor for our own progress as individuals and as a species. Every generation faces its own version of the Hydra. Whether it's a war, a global pandemic, or a societal challenge, we seem to confront one seemingly insurmountable beast after another. And just when we think we've solved one problem, another arises, often more complex than the last. It is as if the Hydra's heads represent the very nature of progress itself. Each challenge leads to new questions, new obstacles, and new opportunities to evolve. In this light, the Hydra's regeneration could be seen as a powerful symbol of the cyclical nature of progress. While challenges may multiply, so do our solutions, ideas, and capacities for change. Our victories against one challenge often open up new doors for growth as long as we're willing to adapt and collaborate. The battle with the Hydra, then, is not just about cutting off heads, it's about transforming how we approach the world and its many obstacles. One final thought before we move on. When the Hydra's ultimate defeat came not by sheer strength, but by transformation. Hercules didn't defeat the Hydra in the traditional sense of vanquishing a monster. He learned how to stop it from regenerating, how to manage the monster's perpetual growth. This final act encapsulates the myth's most powerful message. No matter how many challenges life throws our way, there is always a way to adapt to change and to face them with strength and resilience. As we continue to navigate our own lives, let's take that message with us. Life may throw a Hydra at us, but with the right tools, creativity, collaboration, and resilience, we too can face it, adapt to it, and keep moving forward. When we think of the Hydra, we might be tempted to see it purely as a terrifying monster, but there is an undeniable beauty to its symbolism. The Hydra, with its multiple heads and endless regenerative power, can teach us something about the very nature of our existence. Life is filled with challenges that regenerate, problems that evolve, and obstacles that reappear just when we think we've overcome them. But the Hydra myth suggests that these challenges are not to be feared or avoided. They are opportunities for growth, learning, and transformation. Let's take a moment to look deeper at this idea. Life is never a straight path, and it's rare that we can achieve a final victory over our problems. Instead, our journey is full of setbacks, repeated struggles, and the constant need to adapt. In this sense, the Hydra represents the cyclical nature of human experience. Problems don't just disappear. They shift and evolve, coming at us from new angles. Much like the Hydra's heads, our struggles constantly change shape, making it seem as though no matter how much we fight, we're always confronted with something new, something more complex. But the important lesson here is that this isn't a message of despair. The Hydra, for all its terror, also represents the idea that growth and progress often require us to face the same challenges repeatedly, but with new tools, new strategies, and a stronger sense of purpose. Each time we face a new obstacle, we have the opportunity to adapt, to become more resilient, and to find creative solutions that weren't apparent before. The heads of the Hydra might regenerate, but so too does our capacity to learn, evolve, and fight back with renewed strength. It's in this light that the myth of the Hydra speaks not just to the heroism of Hercules, but to the resilience of the human spirit. We too face monsters that regenerate, whether they be personal struggles, societal issues, or global crises. But like Hercules, we can find ways to adapt and overcome. The key is not in slaying the Hydra, but in learning how to manage the relentless cycle of challenges that life throws at us. One of the most profound aspects of the Hydra myth is its depiction of teamwork. Hercules, though immensely strong and capable, needed help from Iolaus to defeat the Hydra. Iolaus's quick thinking and action in cauterizing the stumps of the decapitated heads allowed Hercules to finally end the creature's reign of terror. This partnership shows us that even the strongest among us cannot face the Hydra alone. We need others. Whether it's the support of a community, the wisdom of others, or simply collaboration, facing our challenges requires a collective effort. In the modern world, this lesson is more important than ever. We live in a time of unprecedented global challenges, climate change, political instability, economic inequality, and a myriad of social issues. These problems are like the Hydra. They regenerate and evolve, seeming to grow more complex the more we try to solve them. But like Hercules and Iolaus, we must learn to work together to combine our strengths and to innovate solutions that will allow us to manage, if not entirely defeat, these challenges. The Hydra's metaphor for our modern struggles is a powerful one. It speaks to the frustration we often feel when tackling complex, interwoven problems. Each time we think we've made progress, a new aspect of the issue emerges, often more complicated than before. But the Hydra also teaches us that persistence, collaboration, and innovation are key to making progress. The battle may never be over, but that doesn't mean we stop fighting. We adapt, we learn, and we continue to push forward. There's also a deeper lesson in the way Hercules approached the Hydra. He didn't rely solely on brute strength. He used his mind, his creativity, and his willingness to work with others. This is the true meaning of heroism in the context of the Hydra myth, not just physical strength, but the ability to adapt and find new solutions. In our own lives, we too must find ways to apply creativity and adaptability to the challenges we face. Whether in our personal lives or in tackling larger societal issues, the key to overcoming the Hydra is not simply to fight harder, but to think smarter and work together. It's worth noting that the Hydra's regenerative power isn't just about physical strength. It represents something more profound: the nature of challenges that refuse to go away, that evolve and adapt no matter how hard we fight them. But the Hydra's true lesson isn't that we're doomed to be overwhelmed by these challenges. It's that, like Hercules, we can choose how we face them. The more we adapt, the more we learn, and the more resilient we become. The Hydra may seem like an impossible enemy, one that cannot be defeated. But its true strength lies not in its regeneration, but in the power it gives us to grow stronger, more creative, and more resilient. Every battle with the Hydra is an opportunity to evolve, to find new ways to fight, and to learn from the challenges we face. As we move forward, let's remember the Hydra not as an undefeatable monster, but as a symbol of our own ability to adapt and persevere. The battle may be never-ending, but so too is our capacity to evolve and overcome. In the end, the Hydra may win some battles, but it is through our perseverance and innovation that we can continue to rise above again and again. As the Hydra's myth endures through the ages, it continues to leave an indelible mark on our understanding of conflict resilience and the nature of challenges in our lives. The Hydra teaches us that no problem, no matter how daunting, is without its lessons. No struggle is without its purpose. It's a reminder that obstacles are not only to be confronted, but also to be understood and learned from. Every head of the Hydra that sprouts up in our lives holds a lesson about growth, adaptation, and ultimately overcoming. But let's also take a moment to reflect on the deeper philosophical aspects of the Hydra. In many ways, the creature represents the endless nature of human endeavor. As individuals, we often strive for permanence, seeking solutions that will last forever, aiming for the kind of success that is permanent and unchanging. But the Hydra reminds us that life is in constant motion. Problems evolve, challenges regenerate, and change is a constant force that we must learn to navigate. The Hydra's never-ending cycle of regrowth challenges the very notion of permanence. And in doing so, it asks us to reconsider our approach to life's struggles. In this sense, the Hydra is not just a symbol of defeat, but of acceptance. It encourages us to understand that life will never be without its challenges. We might not be able to eradicate every problem, but we can learn to cope with them, adapt, and continue moving forward. The key is not to focus solely on the idea of winning or defeating every obstacle, but to learn how to live with them, how to face them with resilience, creativity, and the ability to evolve. In that sense, the Hydra teaches us not about final victory, but about persistence, Consider the many challenges we face today. From political unrest to personal hardships, it often seems that no matter how much progress we make, we are constantly faced with new, even more complex problems. The cycle of challenges feels unbreakable, like the Hydra's regenerative heads. These problems regenerate and evolve in response to our efforts. But the Hydra myth reminds us that we are not defeated by the emergence of new challenges. Instead, we are empowered by the opportunity to adapt. Each new obstacle presents an opportunity to develop new strategies, new methods, and new ways of thinking. This constant evolution is not a failure. It is an ongoing process of growth. The lesson here is clear: we don't need to defeat every challenge in life. We simply need to face them with the right mindset, knowing that each head we encounter is a chance to learn, grow, and become more resilient. By accepting that obstacles are part of the journey, we free ourselves from the false hope that life should be without struggle. The Hydra teaches us that facing challenges is not only inevitable, it is also necessary for growth. And let's not forget the lesson of collaboration. Hercules could not have defeated the Hydra alone. It was his partnership with Iolaus and his ability to accept help that allowed him to finally stop the creature's regeneration. In today's world, this lesson is more crucial than ever. Many of the challenges we face as individuals and as a society are simply too large to tackle alone. Whether it's combating climate change, addressing social inequality, or resolving global conflicts, we need to recognize that working together is not just beneficial, it is essential. The Hydra myth reminds us that collaboration is a key component of overcoming even the most daunting obstacles. But as we think about Hercules' triumph over the Hydra, it's important to remember that the real victory was not in the final moment of the kill. The true victory came in the process, the willingness to adapt, to innovate, to work with others, and to continue fighting even when the struggle seemed endless. The journey of facing the Hydra, rather than the moment of slaying it, is what defined Hercules as a hero. In the same way, our own journey, our resilience in the face of challenges, is what shapes us and defines our success. The Hydra, then, is more than just a symbol of problems that won't go away. It is a powerful reminder that challenges, though persistent, are also an integral part of life's process of growth and evolution. Each time we face a new challenge, we are given an opportunity to evolve, to find creative solutions, and to grow stronger. Just like Hercules, we must learn to adapt to face each challenge head-on, and to recognize that it is the ongoing struggle that leads us to deeper wisdom and understanding. We all face our own personal Hydra, whether in the form of mental health struggles, relationship difficulties, or societal issues. And just like Hercules, we must find our own way to face them. We must work together, use our creativity, and remain persistent in the face of adversity. The Hydra may continue to regenerate, but so too does our ability to adapt, learn, and persevere. In the end, the Hydra is not a creature to be defeated once and for all. It is a reminder that life's challenges, though persistent, offer us the chance to grow and evolve. By learning to face them with resilience, collaboration, and adaptability, we can navigate the endless cycle of obstacles that life throws our way. And just as Hercules triumphed, not by defeating the Hydra, but by learning to manage it, we too can overcome the challenges that come our way, by learning how to live with them and grow stronger in the process. As we near the end of our journey through the Hydra myth, it's important to step back and appreciate the deeper layers of meaning embedded within this ancient tale. The Hydra, while a terrifying monster, is also a symbol of something much more profound, the complexity of life itself. Its many heads represent the multitude of problems we face, not just in our personal lives, but on a global scale. And yet, it's the process of learning how to manage these problems, rather than seeking to eliminate them entirely, that ultimately brings us closer to understanding what it means to truly live. The Hydra's regenerative ability embodies the nature of cyclical struggles. Just as we believe we have conquered a problem, it seems to grow back in a different form or new ones sprout in its place. This is not merely a frustrating aspect of life, it's an essential part of it. As humans, we are constantly evolving, constantly learning, and constantly facing new challenges. The Hydra's heads may regenerate endlessly, but each time they do, we are given another opportunity to rise to the occasion and adapt. Think about the way we approach the various challenges we face today. Whether it's global issues like the climate crisis, social injustice, or the personal struggles many of us face in our daily lives, the Hydra is a fitting metaphor for the constant battle against forces that seem too big, too complex, and too numerous to tackle. Yet much like Hercules, we are not powerless. In fact, we have the ability to change the course of the battle. Just as Hercules learned to stop the Hydra's regeneration with the help of his clever nephew Iolaus, we too can find ways to face our challenges head-on and make a real difference. The Hydra's story teaches us that no victory is ever final, but that doesn't mean we are doomed to failure. In fact, it's in the process of tackling these ever-evolving challenges that we find our strength and resilience. Every obstacle we overcome makes us more capable, more creative, and more willing to face the next one, with even more wisdom. Just like Hercules, who learned to adapt and innovate in the face of the Hydra's monstrous powers, we too must approach our challenges with a flexible mindset. We may not always have all the answers, but by staying open to new approaches and learning from past experiences, we can continue moving forward. Furthermore, the Hydra myth has a powerful message about transformation. In the myth, Hercules is not simply a hero because he is strong, but because he transforms through the process of facing the Hydra. Each time he strikes down a head, and each time he finds a new way to stop the creature's regeneration, he becomes a better, more resourceful hero. This theme of transformation is one that we can all relate to. As we face challenges, whether they are internal struggles or external forces, we too can transform. Each trial we face offers us the chance to grow and evolve. The Hydra, in this sense, becomes not just a symbol of obstacles, but also of our own potential for growth. This transformation is critical, especially in a world that seems increasingly chaotic and unpredictable. With the Hydra constantly regenerating, it might feel as if we're stuck in an endless cycle. But the myth encourages us to see these cycles not as something to dread, but as a natural part of our journey. Each challenge we face allows us to transform, to refine our strategies, and to emerge stronger. The Hydra teaches us that change is constant, that challenges are inevitable, but it also teaches us that we are equipped to handle them. As we reflect on this, it becomes clear that the Hydra is not merely a beast to be slain. It is a symbol of the ongoing process of change, of challenges that never quite go away, but evolve into something new. This constant regeneration, while it may seem overwhelming at times, is also a reminder of the limitless possibilities for growth and transformation that we have at our disposal. And perhaps the most profound message of the Hydra myth is that there is no single way to face life's challenges. Hercules didn't use the same method for every head. His approach evolved as the battle wore on, and he learned to use different strategies to adapt to the ever-changing nature of the Hydra. This flexibility is essential in our own lives as we face the inevitable trials that come our way. No matter how many heads the Hydra has, no matter how many times life throws us off course, we have the ability to adjust, to learn, and to find new ways to persevere. As we close this chapter on the Hydra, remember that it's not the monster itself that defines the myth, it's the hero's journey. The Hydra is not merely a villain to be defeated, but a force of nature to be understood, managed, and lived with. Like Hercules, we must not just face our struggles with brute force, but approach them with intelligence, creativity, and the understanding that we are capable of more than we think. The journey may never end, but with each step forward, we grow stronger, more capable, and more resilient. In the end, the Hydra's message is one of persistence, adaptability, and transformation. The heads may keep regenerating, but so too do our strengths, our strategies, and our will to continue. And as long as we persist, facing each challenge with the courage to adapt, collaborate, and evolve, we too will emerge victorious in our own battles. As we continue our exploration of the Hydra myth, it's important to remember that this story is more than just a tale of battles and monsters. It's a reflection of the deeper, more enduring struggles we face throughout our lives. The Hydra, with its many heads and regenerative power, symbolizes the challenges that seem to grow more complex the more we try to resolve them. It is the perfect metaphor for the way obstacles evolve, transform, and reappear, forcing us to constantly adapt. At the heart of the Hydra myth is the struggle against forces that seem out of our control, forces that regenerate no matter how hard we fight them. But the key to understanding the myth lies in how we approach these challenges. Hercules could have fought the Hydra head-on with brute strength alone. But it was his ability to adapt, innovate, and accept help from Iolaus that ultimately led to his success. This aspect of the myth teaches us that overcoming adversity requires more than just raw power. It requires creativity, collaboration, and the willingness to embrace new methods. In modern life, we often find ourselves battling our own Hydra's challenges that seem to multiply the more we try to overcome them. Personal struggles, societal issues, and global crises all share this characteristic. No matter how many heads we cut off, more keep growing in their place. The Hydra represents these ever-present regenerating obstacles that we must face again and again. But just like Hercules, we can find ways to manage these challenges. The key is not to expect a quick, one-time solution, but to recognize that facing these obstacles is a continuous journey. This is especially true in our rapidly changing world. In the past, people might have been able to focus on one problem at a time. Perhaps it was a war, an economic collapse, or a personal crisis. Today, however, we are constantly confronted with a multitude of issues. The complexity of our world, whether it's the intersection of climate change, technology, politics, or health, makes it feel as though we are fighting an endless Hydra of problems. But the myth of the Hydra also offers us hope. It teaches us that through adaptation and collaboration, we can face the most daunting of challenges, even when it seems as though they will never end. The Hydra's regeneration doesn't just symbolize the persistence of problems, it also reflects the persistence of solutions. Each new head that appears is an opportunity to apply new thinking, to innovate, and to adapt. In this way, the Hydra teaches us that there is always room for growth. Every time we face a new challenge, we are presented with an opportunity to learn to develop and to become better equipped to handle the next one. Hercules' struggle was not just about defeating the Hydra, it was about evolving in the process. And so too must we evolve as we face the endless challenges in our own lives. But the Hydra's regenerative power also symbolizes the paradox of life. The more we struggle, the more we grow. It is the very nature of life's challenges that drives our personal and collective growth. The cycle of facing obstacles, learning from them, and moving forward is a process that makes us stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The Hydra, with its never-ending regeneration, serves as a reminder that growth doesn't come from avoiding challenges, it comes from embracing them and learning to adapt. And let's not forget that the myth of the Hydra also offers a profound lesson in humility. Hercules was a hero, yes, but he was not invincible. It was his willingness to accept help from Iolaus and his ability to innovate and adapt his strategies that allowed him to defeat the creature. This humility is a crucial lesson for us all. We can't always face life's challenges alone. The Hydra reminds us that, like Hercules, we need to rely on others, collaborate, and be open to new ideas in order to succeed. The more we recognize our limitations and embrace the strength of community, the better equipped we will be to face the next challenge that comes our way. As we reflect on the lessons of the Hydra, we can see that it is not just a tale of heroism and struggle, it is a story about the nature of life itself. The Hydra's regenerative power mirrors the cycles of growth, struggle, and adaptation that define the human experience. It reminds us that challenges are inevitable, but so are the opportunities for growth and transformation. Like Hercules, we must learn to adapt, innovate, and collaborate in order to overcome the challenges we face. Perhaps the most powerful message the Hydra myth imparts is that life's challenges are not obstacles to be avoided, but opportunities to grow and evolve. The Hydra may never truly be defeated, but that's not the point. The point is that through every challenge we face, we have the potential to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Each time a new head appears, we are given the chance to adapt, to learn, and to find new ways to move forward. In the end, the Hydra's story is a testament to the power of persistence, adaptability, and collaboration. It shows us that while we may never be able to eliminate all the challenges in our lives, we can learn to face them with resilience and strength. And like Hercules, we too can emerge victorious, not by slaying the Hydra, but by learning how to manage the endless cycle of challenges that come our way. As we reach the final chapter of the Hydra's story, we reflect on how this myth has echoed through history, shaping the way we view challenges, resilience, and the human spirit. The Hydra, with its many heads, has come to symbolize something far greater than just an ancient creature. It represents the very nature of life itself, unpredictable, ever-changing, and filled with constant obstacles that seem insurmountable. Yet it is through our struggles that we learn the most about ourselves, about the world, and about the strength we never knew we had. At the core of the Hydra myth is the timeless lesson of perseverance. Hercules didn't face just one head of the Hydra. He faced an endless cycle of new heads, each one seemingly more dangerous than the last. And while the myth tells us of his eventual victory, it also reveals the profound truth that real success isn't always about reaching the final moment of triumph. It's about the journey, the adaptation, and the willingness to continue moving forward, no matter how many heads rise up in our path. This idea of perseverance resonates deeply with our own experiences. Life, like the Hydra, is full of challenges that regenerate in various forms. We might think we've solved one problem, only to have another emerge in its place, sometimes more complex and daunting than before. But rather than seeing this as a sign of failure, the Hydra teaches us to embrace these challenges as opportunities for growth. Each new head that emerges presents a chance to learn to adapt and to find new ways of overcoming the obstacles in front of us. Hercules didn't just defeat the Hydra by cutting off its heads. He learned how to stop the creature's regeneration by using fire to cauterize the wounds, preventing new heads from growing. This crucial step in the story teaches us that overcoming life's challenges often requires more than just sheer strength. It requires creative thinking, adaptability, and at times, collaboration. Hercules needed the help of his nephew Iolaus to succeed in this task. In the same way, we too must recognize when it's time to ask for help and work together with others to solve the problems we face. The Hydra, with its seemingly endless ability to regenerate, also speaks to the idea of transformation. Life's challenges are not static. They evolve, grow, and change. The obstacles we face today might look very different from those we encounter tomorrow, but each challenge we overcome makes us better prepared for the next. Hercules' victory over the Hydra wasn't just about defeating the monster. It was about learning to adapt, to think differently, and to face the evolving nature of his task with resilience and creativity. In a world where challenges can seem overwhelming and solutions elusive, the Hydra teaches us that persistence is key. The battle may never truly be over, but that doesn't mean we stop fighting. We must continue to confront the challenges that come our way, knowing that each time we face a new problem, we gain more experience, more wisdom, and more strength to tackle the next one. Just as Hercules adapted his strategy, we too must find new ways to approach the obstacles in our lives, whether they are personal struggles, societal issues, or global crises. In the end, The Hydra myth is a testament to the power of resilience, adaptability, and teamwork. It shows us that life's challenges may never cease, but we are more than capable of handling them. By learning to adapt, by embracing the opportunity for growth, and by recognizing the value of collaboration, we can navigate the ever-changing world around us. So as we close the story of Hercules and the Hydra, let's remember the lessons it teaches us, that our struggles, no matter how daunting, are opportunities for growth. That success isn't about defeating every obstacle, but about learning how to face each one with creativity and persistence. And that, like Hercules, we can adapt, collaborate, and continue on our journey no matter how many heads the Hydra may grow. The Hydra may never truly be defeated, but in facing it, we become stronger. We learn, we evolve, and we grow. And perhaps in the end, that's the greatest victory of all, not in the defeat of the monster, but in the strength we gain from continuing to face it again and again. Sweet dreams.